Okay, so we're going to do our little bit of bright check just in these little areas here. So we're going to take this and we're going to trim off just some tiny little pieces of bright check. Okay, we only need little ones, so probably about that sort of size. Just be careful because they do tend to want to flick. I don't know where that one's gone. That's just disappeared into the ether, that one. So I'm just going to put my finger over. That's the way I do it to prevent them from flicking everywhere. Okay, and we've got one that I knew where that one had flicked to. The other one's disappeared off into the unknown. Okay, so we're just going to do this where we're coming up just there, not right at the end of our petal base. We're coming up just a little bit in there, okay? So then we're just going to take each one and we're just going to take it up to the end just there. Okay. And it just nicely fills in that little area and adds a little bit of sparkle. Okay. So I'm just going to take that slightly longer one for this area. And just put it up to in between that. Generally, I don't work these on the surface. I would usually have those off the material because that way they're not bouncing about everywhere. There we go. So we've got 4 more to do, and again I just always let that drop down to the fabric. Now this is where your mallow can come in really handy because this thread can catch. So if you just left it to drop, it could catch on these, it could catch on any of this area. So when you've got a little bit further with your stitching, you can just use the mallow to lift up this thread, and then as you take that down, it acts as a guide, and that way you're not going to let it catch on any of your other stitches. So that's that one. Okay. Just let that drop. You can also use the mallow to just gently push it down because you want to handle your wires as little as possible. So again, just going to let that mallow lift the thread up. These are 2 little smaller areas, so potentially could be a little bit on the longer side, but let's just try it anyway. So it drops down, just pop that in there like that, and then just keep hold of that thread and let that drop. See how that's just too long there. So the other thing that a mallow is good for is to lift that gently back up, and then you can pull that thread back. Okay, so here's a little tip I tend to do is I just hold the needle flat underneath and I work the thread back into a couple of times, and then you can just take that needle back up. So I'm just going to trim a little bit off the end there, make that a little bit shorter. Okay, and then take that back down and then take it back in. Oh, that's perfect now. Again. Just going to come up that little bit higher with this one. Okay, and I think that again, this one is probably just fractionally too long. So I'm just going to trim that down. Just because with these loops, the ends are much, much closer together than these ones. Can you see the gaps here? And there's no gaps here. Because to fit them in, we had to make sure that the stitches were that little bit closer together. So just again, going to make sure that we hold our thread up with our malor, take it down, and then in it goes just like that. So we've got our nice little pieces of black jack in between all of our daisies, and we can take that away. If you want, you can see some of the little pieces here hanging about. You can just give that a little bit of a blow and just clear those away. Okay,